up, people? This is Critical Mass. It's episode 27, the podcast where three dudes rap about movies that critics and audiences don't agree on. I'm Nick Honeywell. I am here with Gris, Mr. Gris Griswold, and Brian McCullough. Producer Ben is in the house. Say what's up, people.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, this is Brian McCullough. Took me 5 days, but I finally finished Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, congrats, buddy.
Bless you. Wow. All right, let's jump into our icebreaker because that's what we do. That's what we do on Critical Mass. So, Mr. McCullough came up with the icebreaker tonight. I think it was a good one. We did a little prep for this one because it required a little thinking ahead. But a good question, and here it comes. What is a movie you had the total wrong impression of until you actually saw it?
I'll go first since it was my question. I recently watched Roadhouse for the first time. And, you know, while it wasn't drastically different from what I expected, I came into it thinking it was just this silly, crazy, like, very surface level action. I mean, it's kind of infamous. You know, people talk about Roadhouse, and of course, there's the remake coming out soon. So I decided to give it a nice watch, and boy, does it have heart! Like it's actually, it kind of goes off the rails a little bit towards the end, but it is not what I was expecting. And that was what triggered the question. But my main answer to this question is First Blood. So I'd grown up hearing about Rambo and seeing these Rambo posters on my friends' walls. And so I'm thinking, all right, Rambo is just going to be like Commando or something. It's just going to be this movie where there's a guy and he just murders a million people, right? And First Blood, which is Rambo 1, I suppose.
Right.
Oh man, was it so different from what I expected? Definitely not just a straight up action movie. It's more of like a drama.
Opposite, yeah.
So that's my answer.
Dang.
First Blood.
I'll kind of flip it a little bit, but when you asked this originally, I was trying to figure out a movie that I had watched recently, and I have a lot of rewatch list movies. And one I watched, I think a couple years ago, was Taxi Driver. And I was a little underwhelmed by that after all the hype and all the talk. And I think that was the biggest movie I had, like the most vigorous reaction to, where I was like, I just didn't feel as much, exuberance that people talked about in that film and how much they talked about, how much they revered it. And I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. I apologize. So,
that movie is my answer to another icebreaker, which is movies where you have heard the quote your whole life and you finally attach it to the movie it's from.
That's a good one.
Right.
Like when he says, "You talking to me?" I had no idea that was from that movie till I saw it, and that's
nice.
what that's from.
So it's funny, Brian. I also, I'm not also going to say Rambo, but my mind went there for sure. First Blood, because I didn't see that till, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. I didn't see it as a kid, and I had that same kind of experience. But I'm going to go also...
I didn't start the movie. I'm sorry. Keep talking, but I got to start our movie.
Oh, yeah, we got to start our movie. That's always...
Sorry, I just completely derailed you.
We did this last week,
I know.
Gosh,
dang it.
What the fuck, guys? We got to figure this out.
That just means we're going to have a 3-hour podcast.
We're professionals.
That's right. That's
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Anyways, the movie I'm going to go with as the answer to my question, or answer to Brian's question, actually, is RoboCop. The first RoboCop I saw... I don't know. I mean, not, once again, maybe, in my 20s probably, and I didn't see it as a kid. I always thought it was kind of like just like a hardcore, like just like an action movie, just like straight up action, probably kind of like maybe, not too serious, not too heavy, just kind of like a cool robot just blasting some thugs and, just kind of like just a goofy, substanceless action movie. And what I got was actually a movie that was a very dark movie. Had action, but not as much as I was expecting. But a movie that just really had a lot to say, I thought, in a movie that, was just really kind of about humanity, right? And just, I don't know, really interesting movie, and Paul Verhoeven, a really good director, in my opinion. We are going to talk about a movie tonight, and we're going to spoil that movie. Came out a while ago, so we hope that's not a problem. But we also encourage you to watch the movie. Before you listen to the podcast, because you'll just have more fun and you'll track better with us. So please do that, or don't do that. Maybe our charm alone will get us by. I don't know. Okay, tonight we are talking about a movie from the year of our Lord 2004, 20 years old. It is called Man on Fire, or as I like to call it, Man on Fire.
Wow.
Sorry. I apologize.
Dude, he
got real
tonight.
sassy about that.
He's spicy tonight.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this one for a couple of reasons. This movie, budget, 60 to 70 million. Took in about 130. So, not a huge success, but a bit of a success nonetheless. It was directed by a pretty, I would say, divisive director, at least in my experience with, talking about him with others. Tony Scott, R.I.P. He did a bunch of movies that you probably have heard of if you watch movies. Stuff like Top Gun, Days of Thunder, Last Boy Scout, Crimson Tide, and one of my very favorites, Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State, very good.
Nice.
Yeah, great movie, and plenty of others. This screenplay, written by Brian Helgeland, who actually has some other really great movies under his belt with a writing credit, including L.A. Confidential and also Mystic River. So this guy can write. This guy can write for sure. All right, who's in this movie? You got Denzel, the man himself. You've got Christopher Walken, the man. How do we have the man twice in this movie? But we do, somehow.
Two men.
Yes. The man's.
Man's on fire.
Dakota Fanning's in this movie. Is
Not a man.
Not a man. You've got Giancarlo Giannini, Mickey Rourke. You've got Marc Anthony, and you've got Rachel Ticotin. So a fair few people you may have heard of in this film. So quick refresher about the criteria for the movies we talk about on this podcast. So got to be fresh with audiences and rotten with critics or vice versa. And the disparity between the two needs to be 20% or so. And this is on Rotten Tomatoes, of course. So Man on Fire is a rather stinky 39% with critics and a quite commendable 89% with audiences. So a big old disparity on this one, guys. 50%. So this is going to be interesting, I think. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
First exposure to this film, and how many times have we seen it over the years?
First time last night.
Oh.
No,
Wow.
I'm just kidding. It's been a long time. That was the first time I'd sat down and watched it, but I remember seeing it. I mean, it had been 20 years ago I'd seen this movie. So I was a teenager, didn't remember a whole lot of it. I was talking to Ben about it, last week? I just vaguely remembered the plot and did not remember a majority of this film. But yeah, that's all I got.
First time I saw it was 40 years ago. I'm just kidding. No, I saw it when it came out, and I loved it. And I just remember thinking it was just a badass movie. And I was so, like, Denzel could do no wrong for me at that time. And then I watched it again Sunday, which would be, Wednesday? So 3 days ago.
So only 2 times total.
Twice total.
Dang.
Okay. Yeah, saw it in the theater. Yeah, same experience as Brian. I've certainly watched it more times over the years. Probably seen it 4 or 5 times, something like that. So, yeah, I have a little bit of a history with this movie.
Hey, speaking of fire, who are we drinking tonight?
Oh, goodness. Well,
What a segue.
what a segue.
Timely
Tee it up
too.
for him. Tee it up for him.
We are drinking. Well, we're drinking a couple things. Of course, we're drinking the old standby, the best of the olds. You know, we've been over this before, right? You've got your old English and your old National Bank, and you've got your old
Country
Forester, right? Right. But of all the olds, Old Elk is really the one that we turn to as the sauce that fuels this podcast. And tonight it's the blended straight bourbon whiskey. Ambrosial, as always. I believe that's the word we use to describe it. I have to say, guys, is it as good as the Infinity Blend?
You know what? I was going to say that every time I drink Old Elk, it tastes different, but the same. I don't know what that means.
You find new flavors
But
within.
this is a different drink right now in my hand, but it's the same. I don't know how it's still the same. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, that was really profound.
Yeah, that's very profound.
I did not answer your question, though, and I'd have to have them back next to each other, back to back. I'm going to assume the Infinity Blend is better because, 0.15. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
What
the
kind of
precision.
silly precision is that?
Yeah, right.
Oh, the 111.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proofing. Yeah, Old Elk, we love you. Just remember that the elk is the the Bruce Banner version of the deer. I want you all to remember that. Okay, don't forget that. Don't forget that shit. Old Elk, we love you. Damn it! I said I wasn't going to curse during the Old Elk reads. I keep doing that.
Sorry, Old Elk.
I like that you keep calling them reeds.
I know. Well, that wasn't. No, I just winged that one. That was off the dome. All right. What are we doing now? What are we doing, guys, on Critical Mess here? We are going to rate this movie. we're going to rate this movie. And I'm excited to hear what you fine people think about this film.
I wonder if Nick, do you want to go first? Like, I don't want to. You don't have to, but I feel like you always kind of round us out.
Yeah, we should go ahead and pressure.
And
Nick
I wonder
going first.
if it would be funnier if you went first.
Yeah, I'm going to go first. I like that.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'm going to give this movie an 81. I'm going to give this movie an 81.
That's not as high as I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing to you, Ben, in particular, because I know you didn't love this movie, and I want to get into this more later. But I do just want to say, I really understand why someone would maybe not only not like but hate this movie. I get it more than I would get it with a lot of other movies. Let's put it that way.
Fair.
So, anyways, I'm giving it an 81, and we're gonna get more into that here in a little bit.
Well, Nick, you and I are not finishing our beverages tonight because we do not have the same rating as each other. I'm going to give it a 40, and I'm just going to say two words to back that up: annoyance and fatigue.
Great wording. I am sitting right at a 53. So right around there. So we're not finishing
right
our
in the
drinks
middle.
tonight, but yeah, 53 is right in the middle. These are tough scores, but I had a hard time with this movie overall.
We're nice and spread out.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah,
Did
I
not
didn't
hate
either.
it.
There's a lot to enjoy in this movie, but yeah,
it's
I don't
funny.
want-
We're sorry. We're tracking, audience critics, kind of between us, sort of well. So that's
true.
kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's going to be a good episode.
39.89. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, pretty close. You are listening to Critical Miss. I'm here with Brian. I'm here with Gris. My name is Nick. Okay, so critics and audiences, we just touched on this. They do not agree on this movie. And in fact, they do not agree on this movie much at all. We got a 50% disparity here, which is not the biggest we've seen, but it's got to be near the top, right? I mean,
Yeah,
50%.
Yeah, and it's we didn't say this before, but it's the critic out of 10 is a 5.3, and the audience is an 8.6. So not as drastic, but still, that's a lot. Anytime the out of 10, those are usually going to diverge closer together. They're going to kind of normalize each other. And anytime those are more than like 3 points, we're really dealing with the disparity here. So for sure.
So let's get into that. Let's dig into that a little bit. Why do critics and audiences not agree on this film?
Well, I think that if we read the critic consensus, Man on Fire's solid action and top shelf cast are undone by a relentlessly grim story that gets harder to take the longer it goes on. Nathan Rabin, AV Club. Scott's latest exercise and assault of excess nevertheless lingers for 2.5 hours like a drunken house guest who won't leave. Does this feel too long?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it is a little too long. Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Nev Pierce, BBC.com. Po-faced, dull, and sadistic, Man on Fire is a major disappointment from the Crimson Tide team of Denzel Washington and Tony Scott. How much better of a film is Crimson Tide?
I've not seen it in a while, but I think much.
I watched it not that long ago because of you. I mean, within the last
I did rewatch
couple of
it
years or
because of you
something. And I think it is. I if I have to go with my gut, I'd say I'd probably rate it somewhere in the 70s.
I'm shocked here because this director actor duo here, Tony Scott, Denzel, they made Crimson Tide. Crimson Tide is my number 23 favorite movie of all time, and it does not feel anything like this movie. And so, you've got to chalk that up probably to DPs and screenwriters and all the other stuff. But still, your main character and your director, I mean, how is it so different? How did it fall so far off the rails for me? Let's read another one. How about Stephanie Zacharek from Salon.com? This movie isn't just about a kidnapping. It is a kidnapping, and we're the hostages.
Oh, man.
Shit.
No comment. Michael O'Sullivan. Despite a red-hot performance by Washington as the anti-heroic, self-annihilating title character, the film as a whole, while possessing a kind of vicious beauty, feels as cold and as embalmed as a corpse. Should Denzel in Man on Fire have been in our anti-hero bracket? Did we miss out on a good anti-hero?
I don't know if his rep was quite worthy of that.
Okay.
I don't know, man.
It could be. I mean, it wouldn't have been a bad conclusion.
He would have been a 12 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
You'd call him an anti-hero, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, I like that phrase, vicious beauty.
we had
I was going to
pretty-
say that. That's another reason I wanted to read that one is
We
because
had some
vicious
pretty
beauty.
big hitters in that list, though. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard
true.
to.
some pretty big hitters that for some reason you guys just completely denied in the first round. But
11 seed, man.
I'm a little salty. But Mike LaSalle, San Francisco Chronicle. This is garbage, but it's entertaining garbage.
Agree. Strongly.
Jay Boyer, Orlando Sentinel. You'd have to call Man on Fire a mess, but at least it's an interesting mess. Similar kind of take there. That's why I put those two back to back.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of line to call it a mess.
Okay. Last one, Roger Ebert. Tony Scott's Man on Fire employs superb craftsmanship and a powerful Denzel Washington performance in an attempt to elevate genre material above its natural level, but it fails. So he can see what they were trying to do, as could I, as I think could a lot of the critics, but it didn't execute. It maybe wasn't, like Nick said, or like Nick echoed, it was kind of a mess. It was entertaining. I know obviously you wouldn't call it garbage. One of these people did. They said it was entertaining garbage. I see where the general sentiment with critics here is they're seeing what it's trying to do. It just doesn't execute it. And that's why their average out of 10 is a 5.3. That's not a 2 out of 10. It's a 5.3 out of 10. Critics are seeing this. They're going, okay, here we see the good stuff, but it's just not a Crimson Tide like affair here.
Yeah, they're looking at the whole package, not just bits and pieces to entertain. But yeah.
I was talking to Gris about the director's two sides. I feel like he had two eras of directing. He had the Days of Thunder, the Top Gun, the Crimson Tide era, and then he had the Taking of Pelham 123. They're totally different directing styles.
Deja Vu, Unstoppable.
I actually love
Yes.
Deja Vu.
But they all kind of do this same thing.
Agreed. The style of those is, you're right. He's kind of a first half, second half.
Yeah, it wasn't like his style evolved. He went a completely different direction and then just went all in on that. Which, directors tend to do that, but it just felt really weird to me and off just based on what he had done before this.
I agree. I think it's like he found what he could excel at, and he just went all in on it. And it was like, the minute some producers needed, hey, who's a cool, stylistic, frenetic action movie director who's just going to make a film that's going to make money? Tony Scott, get him in here.
Does he fall in that bracket of like Michael Bay, Zack Snyder, where they are just so heavily inside that editing room when it comes to the stylistic or the look and the feel of everything? Do they fit in that same category?
I would.
At least not every. It's weird. Not every movie, like Michael Bay, you can tell it's a Michael Bay movie, but I feel like Tony Scott is not the same. Because
I feel like Tony Scott makes Michael Bay movies, but he makes them about smaller stories.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's a much better director.
Yeah.
I think I still, while I didn't love this movie, I still think Tony Scott is great at his craft. I don't think Michael Bay. I think Michael Bay is a great director as far as just directing a movie, but I don't think he's the type of director that I go for.
But just strictly stylistic.
I agree. I think he falls in with the Snyder. It's like you can tell when you're watching a Tony Scott movie.
You can
tell when you're watching a Zack Snyder or a David Fincher movie, who obviously he's in a league above these guys we're talking about. But so yeah, that's our critics. That's what, they're not going to see one thing and fly off the handle and give it a 1 star. They're typically in your 2 to 3 out of 5 here. The audience, on the other hand, as is typically the case, are just a bunch of fucking idiots. And they just don't know, like, hey, Nick, listen, I've got just one piece of advice for the audience. Hey, just why not? Don't waste your time going on the internet typing stupid shit. Just don't do it. Just stay off the internet and watch the movies. Why do you have to go talk about things? You're not getting paid. You're not a critic. Just stop it. Stop, Gris. Stop it.
I think it's known now that that's what they go to the internet for, and that's what the internet is for.
I was saying stop it to whatever you were going to say, not that you're the people writing these. No, I'm sorry. I just get on that diatribe because, like, I can't stand when somebody just like knee-jerk gives something a 0 or a 5. That's not helping anybody. You know what I'm saying? So we'll read a couple of these here. I'm not going to belabor this. There's only just a couple here, but Robert A. says, this movie has a gritty feel of what child trafficking was earlier in the day. It has a happy ending. Reality is much darker. 10 out of 10. Does this have a happy ending? The hero dies, and the girl is just about to find out that her dad committed suicide.
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the character arc of Denzel Washington's guy, and like Creasy, is that his last
Creasy,
name?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just that whole arc of him going from this to that and then sacrificing himself at the end for the family to get out. I think the dad killing himself was just an easy way for the wife and daughter to get out of the country.
Yeah.
But I did notice that. Did you guys know there's an alternate ending to this?
No.
I didn't know that until. Did you know, Nick?
I did not.
So I didn't know that until I started to do my typical research on the watches that were in this film. And
it's funny. As he said that, I saw a watch on screen.
Okay. So I did a bunch of research on that and then trying to figure out what the fuck he's wearing in this movie the whole time. And then there's a alternate ending. So spoiler alert for all of our listeners, but the alternate ending, I think, would bump this up legitimately 20 points for me because it's him in the car. And he gets driven to what was the voice? Is that the bad guy's name? Mm-hmm. He gets driven to his fortress of solitude or whatever, gets in there, and they have a one-on-one conversation. Denzel's quiet, somber, dying, essentially. He's bleeding out. They do a bunch of cutscenes to that. And then it brings up the bad guy's going off on his big monologue of how he's the greatest and he is the voice of everything. And then Denzel looks down at his wrist and it shows both watches, which I could not find in the entire cut to see both watches on his wrist when he wears two. But it counts down 3, 2, 1, and the whole building blows up. Oh. And all the bad guys run to the out. Like you can see them scattering to see what the fuck happened.
Dude, that's okay. I was going to get to this.
Would that bump your score up?
I was gonna bring that was something I had written down for later. Like, you could have made the end of this movie so much better if he just. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking he's just wearing a suicide vest when they bring him to the car and he just blows up everybody in the car. Like that goes with his.
I felt like it felt
his whole MO,
his character,
right? And then to him to just kind of just die off.
And
like
I just happened to look up a quick video or snippet of the trailer or something like that while I was getting gas before I got here, and it showed an alternate ending. And that whole thing, it was a solid 5-6 minutes of extra footage of him going through that, and I was like, God, that would have been great.
They should have done that.
I don't like that he sort of had this honor code with these people who kidnapped this girl, and he made that trade. I think he owed it to them to double cross them.
Yeah. He did. We don't have to get too much into this, but the only thing I will say to that is I think the only way the reason I can forgive that a little bit is because he was dead. Like he knew he was dying. He was gonna die.
For sure.
Momentarily. Like who gives a shit? He's just dead. So, anyways,
let's figure out a little bit more why the audience just was enamored with this movie. Jim M says, "A Man on Fire," this is Man on Fire, not A Man on Fire, by the way, but A Man on Fire is one of my favorite Denzel Washington movies. The chemistry between him and Dakota Fanning is amazing, and I totally believe the father-daughter relationship they formed in the movie. It was the first time I ever saw Dakota Fanning in a movie, and I became a lifelong fan, 9 out of 10. I would agree with everything he said if the movie ended halfway through. We'll get to why that. Well, we'll get there. Saint R. It's a gritty story of love and sacrifice, and it's always cool to watch a competent man at his dangerous craft bring hell down on thugs. 10 out of 10. So they're just loving, they're vibing. Denzel doing what he does. 10 out of 10. Bruce W. Another brilliant performance from Denzel and ably supported by a very talented Dakota Fanning. The intensity of Mexico City was very well captured. 8 out of 10. So they're liking the theme. And I know I had that preamble that the audience is stupid. I picked out the smartest ones that actually made sense, and each spoke their own thing. I just filtered all the gibberish out.
Brian, you said a word there. I think it was brilliant, and I feel like that's a really cool word because I think that means you're both smart and rich.
Oh, right? It actually is brilliant. Did I say billion?
Yeah, no, sorry. Yes.
Billion.
I'm just being a jackass.
I'm brilliant.
I'm just being a jackass.
He's spicy tonight. Watch out.
Sorry.
No, bring it. I love it. I'm always calling people out. All right, Peter B. Man on Fire is such a great movie. So powerful. Acting is really strong. Story and script is great. Directing is amazing. It takes you on such a great ride and is powerful on every level. 10 out of 10. So, okay. All right. My summary here. The audience loved the story and the performances. So they were in on where we're at, Mexico City, kidnapping. We got this guy, this hard-edged, flawed, broken man who does this amazing act, has a great character arc, rescues this girl. The performances are really good. The chemistry's really great. And that garnered 5-star reviews. I think it's as simple as that. I think people are giving this 5 stars because they think back to it, probably a lot of them. They probably think back to it like I did before I watched this 3 days ago. And I was like, oh man, Man on Fire, freaking love Man on Fire. That movie is amazing, And I don't know. I think that's, and I'm I think those are valid reasons to like this movie, and I think those are accurate things about this movie. But I think that they're kind of maybe have rose-colored sort of goggles for what's really going on in the movie, and really kind of maybe how simplistic of a movie it is. I don't know.
Sure. I think that I'm sure that's happening with me at least a little bit. Did you have a couple more there, Brian?
No, that was it. I just kind of wanted to point out the fact that the audience seems to be trigger happy, and the critics seem to actually take time to weigh in on the good and the bad holistically. There was a lot of indictment on the critics here. I mean, almost every other review was critics are paid off, critics are AI, critics are they didn't even watch the same movie as I watched. Like there was so much of that. There was so much of and I feel like a lot of those people put 5 stars because it had a 39% from critics, not because they just thought this is a 5-star movie. Once again, not a reason to rate a movie 5 stars. I
want to say a couple things about that real quick. I have 3 reasons I want to hit on real quick that I think that audiences really liked this movie and gravitated toward this movie. And one of those is that this movie is, I don't care who you are. I mean, well, actually, it may not be true for everybody, but I think for most people and for the audiences that loved it, this movie is like ultra cathartic. It's cathartic in a way that most movies are not.
That was my third word: annoyance, fatigue, cathartic.
Yeah,
for sure, 100%.
And I think that is something that audiences crave out of a movie. Like that's one of the reasons you go to a movie, is for a cathartic experience, and I think that happened here. Thing 2. Denzel. People fucking love Denzel. He's the man. Will someone name a more likable A-lister than Denzel Washington? It's going to be hard.
Tom Hanks.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
mean,
put
maybe.
Denzel above. I put Denzel higher. Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell, Tom Hanks. Some of those guys are in there. But Denzel,
you can at least argue Denzel against pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why
sure.
that was a question. Kurt Russell was a question, not a statement.
Yeah.
I agree. He's up there in the conversation of the Mount Rushmore of most likable and just actors on our side, despite being in Training Day. You know what I mean? Like he was terrible in that, and that did not even tarnish his reputation.
Yeah. So I mean, for better or worse, that's just a reason people really like this movie. And the other thing kind of goes with the first point, but a little different. This movie, we always talk about movies. Did they make you feel something? This movie is a very emotional movie. Very emotional, like a 10 out of 10 on the emotion scale. So it really makes you, I can see why a lot of people are having these really visceral 10 out of 10. Because if they really liked that emotional journey, that was a deep emotional experience they just had with this film. And I can see why they would just give it a really high rating. It's not something you had to like think about and ponder for a couple days and be like, No, you just you just have a pretty strong, quick, visceral reaction, I feel like, to this movie.
I think you're right. I don't think there's a lot of people having a super strong emotional reaction to a movie and going, oh my gosh, wow, 6 out of 10. It's like that.
Right.
That doesn't track.
Right.
I think it's just the simplicity of his character and him being that anti-hero. Like, I mean, he was fucking unhinged in this movie. Like, he is a psychopath.
He's not a good dude.
It's insane. But his intentions to make sure to protect that girl and become the father figure immediately was pretty powerful. I think that's what people attach themselves to.
Yeah.
All right, you're listening to Critical Mass. We are sponsored tonight by Old Elk Blended Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Elk's the Bruce Banner version of the deer.
Just have us reading it out.
Hit the high notes.
Anyways, Old Elk. Yeah, we love Old Elk. It's just, obviously
I'm frankly happy that we were able to find some, you guys. There are 2 bottles on the table.
Right, yeah.
Before
How
look at
much
us.
in demand is Old Elk here in Indianapolis? I mean, it is flying off the shelves, and it's got to be because of this show.
It's 100%
absolutely.
because of us. Yeah. You're welcome, Old Elk.
Yeah, indeed.
We should get money.
Thanks, Ben. We'll work on that. All right, you're listening to Critical Mass.
Says our unpaid producer. Poor guy. He's just over here. Guys, I'm just trying to take some bread home.
My wife would like it more.
She might actually listen.
Yeah, she'd listen, yeah.
Thank you, Kate.
All right, guys.
She didn't hear that.
Cutting all that out.
Let's flip the script. Let's flip the script, gentlemen. So, Brian, let's start with you, just because you had the lowest score, and I want to hear what you liked about this movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely say a 40 means I definitely did not like the movie, but I didn't hate it. I could see it wasn't terrible. and I will say some things I did like about the movie. It was very easy actually to flip the script on this, and I got to be honest, my first rating was like a 58, and wow. Then actually halfway through the movie, guys, I would have been at like an 80. I got to be honest. Maybe that's spoilers, but the first half of this movie, I was like, oh my god, this movie's freaking. This is the movie I remember. And then the rest of the movie happened.
Yeah.
But it just kept going down as I really thought about it and really mulled over it and processed all my notes here and categorized everything, and I arrived at a 40. But anyway, so I'll flip it, and I would say it had a good look to it. Now, I'm not saying that I like the cinematography because it was very jarring and fatiguing, but it did have a good look. I remember the feel of Mexico City. I've never been to Mexico City, but I feel like I have watching this movie. I mean, it just looks great. You feel like you're there. It looks great. That house they're in, that mansion that they're in, just the kind of grittiness, the color grading, good look. Really strong bond between Creasy and Pita. So that would be Creasy is Denzel and Pita is Dakota Fanning. And you guys, I don't normally like get granular like this, but I'm going to say the bond between those two was like 33 of my 40. Like, it was so powerful. Great performances by the two of them as well. Child actors, they're hit and miss. Dakota Fanning, she knocked it out of the park. Yeah, this is one of my favorite child performances of all time.
She was very believable.
Yeah, this is up there with like great child performances like Stand By Me and like My Girl and some classic stuff. I mean, she kills it. She gets lost in the role. I don't even notice that I'm watching a girl act anymore. It's like, that's this person. And then finally, I wanted to bring up one scene which I believe it just got me. It's a scene where they're in the kitchen there, and Pita catches him smiling for the first time, and then he's like, "No, I didn't smile," and it's such a heartfelt scene. And I know it's just one scene, but like I'm gonna always remember that scene from this movie.
Man, great call.
Flipping it, since I'm at a 53 here, I think a lot of this came down to the editing and just how rapid it was. That's why I was so low. But there's so much, like how unhinged and like just off the cuff this guy was, and how psychopath he is towards the end of this movie. His like character piece with him essentially inserting himself as the father figure. One of the greatest scenes, I think, that has to be his chemistry with Dakota Fanning is just unbelievable. And that is easily the best child actor moment I've seen in a movie from, 2004, right? So the biggest thing was just that character art where he inserted himself as the father figure. And then one of the best things that I saw in this film was the dad and the mother having a conversation where they had like a church inside their home. I know, that was one of my slow burns.
So they're having that conversation, and she's talking to him about religion, and then he looks up and he's like, I don't remember. I don't know anything about this. He's like, I'm doing this out of repetitiveness that I've done it my whole life. And then you see Denzel Washington drop her off at school, and he has that conversation with a nun, and the nun is obviously just writes him off as another bodyguard.
And he quotes Romans to her.
And he quotes it back to her, and she just has that little smile. And I was like, dude, what a great little moment that he just has these. He has those the whole movie with all kinds of different characters.
It was, what it made me think of, Brian. I remember we were talking about in Deep Blue Sea and LL Cool J, and how he was like the devout religious guy, and how it was just like he was just like yelling Bible verses like the whole time.
Yeah,
and that was like, there are kind of two ways to develop a devout religious character, and there's that kind of in your face way, the LL Cool J way,
or there's the nice subtle way
where it's like the Denzel Washington way. So,
right,
credit man on fire for that.
Outside of the whole detectiveness of it, and he's going step by step up the ladder as he's killing one person after another to get to who he needs to get to. There's just a lot of little pieces where him teaching her the swim, and like the whole like trying to get her better off the block, and he knew exactly what to do. Like that was awesome. That got me super emotional, because it's like that's an immediate thing that you can teach to somebody and like show that they have more worth and like she can win. But then again, Brian, you said it already, like Mexico City, like gorgeous. Like people talk about how New York City looks in Taxi Driver, like I mentioned earlier, as like iconic. This felt super dirty and disgusting, even in the mansion that they lived in. But the set was just beautiful. Like everything about that city was gorgeous.
I love a movie where like the doors and windows are always open. You're just coming and going out of buildings. Here it's February here, so let's be honest, there are no open doors or windows, and so like it's a little refreshing. Like it's summertime. Yeah. Hey, real quick, that's not the only connection between Deep Blue Sea that these two movies have. There's another one. we'll save that for rapid fire.
Oh,
And it's a giant fucking shark. All right. I'm going to flip the script now. So, I'm going to flip it negative here. One of the critic reviews, Brian, that you read had a word in it that rang true for me. Fatiguing. So this movie was fatiguing. Not and for a couple of reasons. Not just because of all those crazy quick cuts and kind of action sequences, but also, just the length. It's a long movie, and it's a little too long. I will say for sure. The ending, we already kind of covered that a little bit. The ending was, not great. I know a lot of people hated the ending. I think that was pretty clear. I did not hate the ending. I did not love the ending.
I didn't hate the ending either. And matter of fact, I remember loving the ending. That was like what stuck out to me the first time I saw it.
Oh, interesting.
So surprising to me that people hated the ending.
Yeah,
I think I like when the hero dies at the end. Braveheart's like my third favorite movie.
I can dig that. I was kind of indifferent on the ending ultimately. But it could have been a lot better with just a simple twist.
I know. Did you would it raise your score, either of you, if it was the alternate ending that I talked about earlier?
Yeah. If you cut out
I enjoyed
half
the
an hour of the third act and change that, I'd be well above 50.
Yeah, there were way too many characters in that last third act where they were just jumping around to all the detectives and all the everything. But
so another thing is sort of, I guess I'll just call them the Tony Scott-isms, right? Just like all those crazy filters and the way it's paced and those kind of music video style cuts. Is there another movie that's more Tony Scott than this movie?
Enemy at the State is very
it's
frenetic, but it's perfect. But it's done the right way.
I legit got a headache. I texted Ben this last night. I got a headache watching this movie. Like, it was visually so jarring that I couldn't take it. Yeah. And 2.5 hours of that is rough.
All right. You are listening to Critical Mass. We are sponsored by Old Elk. And now we're going to talk about themes. And this movie had themes. I think for sure this movie had themes.
Definitely strong themes.
It did. And since I've kind of been just going first tonight, I'm going to just get us started with themes. And I've got two, and they're pretty closely related. So my themes are clearly like, self-destruction was a theme in this movie for sure. And another big theme in this movie was kind of the idea of rebirth. I feel like, Denzel's sort of evolution, right? He was this guy that just was kind of on just on this path to just total self-destruction. And that idea that, that sort of nihilism, right? He doesn't care if he lives or dies, and he's just really got this one singular focus. And then he just makes this sort of evolution and sort of reborn as this kind of, person that can be compassionate and cares about somebody. And, cares about someone so much that, he's willing to just obliterate everything in his path to get this person back. And so that's what I saw as themes, kind of rebirth and self-destruction. And those I saw working together for sure.
Yeah, very, very strong. I had written here, is anyone ever a lost cause? And, she gives him that St. Jude patron saint of lost causes. And that's his charm he holds on to throughout the rest of the movie and his kind of center point. And she gives his life purpose. He's seen it all. He's been through it all. He's been, he's down and out. He doesn't care. He's an alcoholic. He's sort of given up. And this like innocent girl here, just through sheer, the life that she brings, just kind of completely changes his world. And it's like, well, maybe there's no such thing as a lost cause. I don't know. I had kind of just like sacrificing a life for a life, I think that's a pretty strong theme, sacrifice. And then honor killing. The dad's suicide. Like, he just kind of
gave him that bullet.
Like, that's interesting if you really think about it.
Sweet poetry.
Yeah,
that bullet.
Yeah, I should have put that bullet and flipped the script. I loved that bullet as sort of, it wasn't a MacGuffin, but it was like it was something that the entire movie hinged on, and it came back.
Yeah,
it was like Chekhov's bullet now instead of Chekhov's gun, and it comes back. But the dad, like, does he have to kill himself? Like, why is it an honor killing? I don't know. So that was kind of like maybe a half joking side small theme.
I think I think that dad knew, like, if I don't do this, he's gonna kill me. You know what I mean? So, but that was beautiful. I think purpose was the word I came up with.
Purpose, yeah, good word.
And how his character just had. Because he has that suicidal moment where he drinks the whole bottle one night. I think it was like pretty early in the movie, probably at the end of the first act or early in the first act or late in the first act. He shoots himself and it misfires. And then he calls Christopher Walken's character and they have that beautiful conversation back and forth about suicide. Like and Christopher Walken's like,
bullet never lies, bullet tells the truth.
Like, dude, he was having a great monologue there. And he's going on. And then that moment is when Denzel kind of has that turn and he's like, oh, I have more purpose in my life. And then he realized it's just that girl at that moment is what his purpose is.
I love it. It reminded me of Manchester by the Sea when Casey Affleck has just come to the end of his road. He's so broken that he tries to take his life. And like that's kind of his lowest point. And similarly in this movie, he gets to his lowest point, tries to kill himself. The bullet doesn't fire. And then it's like something about somebody at their lowest with new life and like it's almost kind of like John Wick with the dog killed. Now he's got nothing left, and it's like the righteous vengeance that is caused in a character by inciting events like that. I eat that stuff up, and I'm still surprised I didn't rate this movie higher. Maybe by the end of the podcast, it'll inch its way up a little bit. But yeah, that's very strong themes there.
Well, if this doesn't, this might help a little bit, Brian. I think Gris, you were kind of touching on this a little bit. I just think the dialogue in this movie is really good. Like I think just in general, it's above average dialogue.
I agree.
Kind of the conversation with the suicide conversation with Walken and Denzel. That was just a really
beautiful.
Nicely written scene. I mean, it was very sad, kind of a depressing topic, but just a really well written scene.
My two favorite lines of dialogue: "There's no such thing as tough. There's trained and there's untrained."
That's a great. Yeah, that was I had that written down too.
Sorry,
no.
Since
Great
you brought
line.
it up, the other one I love is Creasy's art is death. He's about to paint his masterpiece.
Yeah, Walken drops a couple nice lines.
I wish I could do a Walken.
I did read that Walken and Denzel's scenes together were improvised. I don't know how true that is because I just read it on the internet.
I mean, they're both just such consummate pros.
Right.
I mean,
I could see them being that good, just improvising.
Did you feel like they were having a good time together?
Yeah.
Like genuinely in real life?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is Critical Mess, and we just talked about themes in the movie Man on Fire. And we're going to talk about arcs now, character arcs. And I think we got a pretty obvious one. Someone want to talk about it?
Oh, Creasy, one of the stronger character arcs we've had in recent analyses we've done. He just goes from broken to really becoming a coach, a father and a coach, but then he's like goes and murders a million people
in very dark, twisted ways.
And then so he gains his life gains like. What do you call it? Purpose? That's your word, Gris. Purpose. He's like he has no purpose. Then he gains purpose, and then he uses his purpose to sacrifice it. It's almost like a double arc. I don't know. Lot going on from Denzel from the beginning of the movie to the end. He's like a completely changed man.
Yeah, very strong arc. What else? Other arcs?
The only other I had was Pita. She learns to believe in herself. You know.
Sure,
that was nice. That was beautiful.
It's kind of a side about B plot, but she wins the swimming thing because she like believes in herself and she doesn't react to the gun, which I love that part.
Mm-hmm.
The whole using the swimming gun, don't react, just listen, and kind of when she gets kidnapped, there's the gun and he's in. I don't know, kind of a cool like tie in there. But
yeah, I think the up down up kind of wave that he had, like that Creasy has, or Denzel Washington his character has, is just. I think it's just beautiful. It has a weird. It's strange that he has such an up down kind of reaction to a lot of things, but his arc was just obviously the main focus of this film. But
those are the only arcs I caught.
All right. It's that time. It's that time to go to a special place, and just hang on one second, Ben. I want to give this a try. Okay. Well, let's see how close we get.
All right.
We are going to. Da-da-na-na-na-na.
Oh, you were half a step up.
I do not have perfect pitch.
Really close.
Anyway,
close, yeah.
It was close.
those lessons are not paying off.
It was close. Yeah. Fire my voice coach. Anyway, we're in Brian's Corner. That's where we are. And what are we talking about tonight, Brian, from Brian's Corner?
Welcome to Brian's Corner. We're talking about movies, great movies, the best movies, my 10 favorite movies that feature a child and adult in the main roles. So these are not just movies that have kids and adults in them, but movies where the child and adult duo is what leads the movie, is what charges the movie. And typically it's the child causing the adult to have a very stark character arc, but not always. Some really good movies out there. I got some honorable mentions. We're not going to agree on these, but this is my corner. These are my favorites. And then you guys can let me know if I missed any. Now, I'm not going to talk about movies like Labyrinth or Hook or What About Bob or Jumanji or What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Life is Beautiful, Sixth Sense. Those are all movies with a kid and an adult in very important roles, but that relationship is like a secondary theme. The movie's not specifically about them. So I'm going to start with number 10, Aliens. Have you guys seen Aliens?
Oh, of course.
I tried to rewatch it recently.
Newt.
Yeah.
And I couldn't enjoy it more than the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you guys think that's a pretty strong candidate for child what do you call it? Child parent, not
100%.
child parent,
There's
child
like,
adult.
There's a
duo.
very mother-daughter
Yeah.
thing going on in that movie. Yeah, great movie.
Great example.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
by Tony's brother.
Yes, Ridley Scott. Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
What a directing.
How did I
tandem
never
there.
know they were brothers?
You didn't?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, I
They're
just
brothers.
guess I just took it
Wow.
for granted. Number 9, True Grit. Now, I know there's an original. I have not seen that one. I've seen the Coen Brothers remake. It's like 09, 10, something like that. There's that girl that changes the entire plot with, and then obviously Jeff Bridges is the man. Have you guys seen True Grit?
Yeah,
I've
that's a
only seen the
beautiful-
OG. I have not seen
That's
the
a
Coen
beautiful
Brothers
movie.
remake.
Yeah. So
Love
wait,
that.
Gris,
Yes.
you've seen the remake?
Yes. Yep.
So Nick's seen the OG, Gris has seen the remake. Does that hold true for both
Oh, yeah.
versions? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's beautiful.
Great.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that chemistry.
Number 8. Now, this one is such a good movie and so strong with the children and the especially the one adult that is affected by the children that I put it on the list, despite the fact that it's 2 kids and not 1 kid. So I'm sort of breaking my rule here. Jurassic Park. And if it was just 1 kid with Sam Neill, it'd be higher on the list. But his arc in that movie, I mean, he goes from literally saying I hate kids to like going on this absolute. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. Why am I explaining Jurassic Park to you guys? You guys know this movie. I shouldn't have to defend it, but very strong.
In terms of being central to the story, it's not quite as strong, I think, as the other ones. But I don't think it's. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve a place on the list.
I guess that speaks to how effective of a movie that is.
Oh well,
for it to
we're
have
talking about an all-time classic.
yeah.
It's one of the best movies
Yeah,
ever.
it is. Number 7, this might be hot take, but War of the Worlds, and I'm talking about the Tom Cruise version from the mid-aughts. That movie, him and his son, I mean, talk about a father-son, we could have a whole separate list about father-son movies, and that'd be a different list. But I think this movie would exist on both lists. And I think that you've got this divorced dad, and he doesn't have a close relationship with his kids, and yet they go through this adventure, and he puts his life on the line, and they come out the other side. So just very strong father. I mean, there's the daughter too, but it's really the son that's the central point. Number 6, this may be one that not a lot of people have heard of, Hunt for the Wilder People. Have you guys seen Ben,
Love
you've
that
seen
movie.
it.
Yeah.
Good movie?
Tiki Watala.
Yeah. Would you agree that that's pretty strong on this list?
Yeah. It's very good.
Another Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Another Sam Neill. What is it about curmudgeon Sam Neill who needs a kid to really bring him? If you haven't seen that, by the way, dear listener, check it out. You will not like it. Number 5, Logan. Don't really need to say much more there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 4, Leon the Professional.
I was wondering when that was going to pop up.
Yeah.
When you
Gorgeous.
said you were going to do this, that's the first movie that popped into my mind.
It was the first one that popped in my mind when after Man on Fire. Yep. But it's not the best. It's not the best. And it's not
We have
that
2 more.
I would say no. There's 3 more, and it's not that I'm not talking about these movies are better. I'm talking about the mechanism
That
of the child
specific
actor.
character, yeah.
I think there's some stronger ones than Leon the Professional. Number 3, I'm going to put Up. I'm going to put Up at number 3. I mean, that's the whole movie.
Yeah.
That is a great
That's a
pick.
great example.
I was not
Right?
even thinking animated.
I know. I wasn't either. That was like one of the last ones I added to the list, and I'm like, that shoots up to number 3 for me.
Yeah.
Nick, have you seen Up?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Number 2, I already mentioned this before, but Manchester by the Sea. Maybe because it's my second favorite movie of all time, but I really think that Lucas Bridges and what's his name? Lucas something. What's that actor's name? And Casey Affleck. I mean, when I went back and rewatched that movie, their relationship is unlike any relationship I've ever seen on screen before in my life.
I've not seen it since it came out. I probably need to rewatch.
It is. It's powerful. It's nuanced. It's
probably 10
interesting.
years old by now, right?
Yeah, 2014, I think.
Jeez. Yeah.
And before I give my number 1, I want to throw a few honorable mentions out there, and I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to talk about them. But these are good movies that didn't quite make the list. Road to Perdition, Man on Fire. I'm putting Man on Fire in here. Obviously, that's the whole catalyst behind this list. The Road, Light of My Life. Okay, have you guys seen Light of My Life yet?
No.
You're hurting my feelings.
Sorry.
Is it just because you can't remember the name of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Is that the only reason?
Yeah.
Gris, you're acting like I've never talked about this movie before.
No clue.
Because you can't remember the name. Oh my God. Of course he doesn't remember.
I'm going to text you the link to Light of My Life. Watch Light of My Life. So good.
Light of My Life or Light of My Life? I want to make sure I Googled this
Light
correctly.
of My Life. You must watch. Everyone who has not seen Light of My Life, put it even above Hunt for the Wilder People. And Dr. Sleep. You guys seen Dr. Sleep?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Good
liked it a lot.
Kid adult movie. Come On. Joaquin Phoenix, Oscar nominated a couple years ago.
It's very good.
It's very good.
Black and white.
Didn't make my top 10, but you see where I'm coming from with
yeah.
child adult there. And then Despicable Me. I'm going to put Despicable Me on there. I know that's 3 girls and an adult, but I think their relationship is so core to that movie that it deserves an honorable mention.
Good call.
I'm gonna add
Too
one.
animated.
Can I
Look
add
at you.
one?
Yes, please.
Star Wars Episode 1, Anakin and
Yeah. And Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Good
Yeah.
call.
Nice.
Great call.
one.
Yeah.
It was like almost too obvious. It just passed me by. Yeah.
Right.
Any other additions before I list my number one?
I got maybe one or two to
You
throw
might
out.
say my number one actually. So
I might. Mrs. Doubtfire is one.
that's a really good one. I thought about that one, but there's kind of multiple.
Yeah, there's multiple kids. It's not just one kid. But there's
But
one
still,
main kid.
yeah, you're
sort
right.
of.
That should have been an honorable mentions at least. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, I don't know if this counts. Big.
I was about to say big
So,
because I'm in that world
What do
right
you guys
now.
think about that? Because I actually did think about that one, and I thought, well, they're both kids though, aren't they?
Kind of.
It's
it's like-
hard.
I don't think that
What
matches this criteria.
No, it was like a 30-year-old dude.
But he's a kid.
But he
He's a 12-year-old kid in a
because
40-year-old
this is where it
man's
gets
body.
complicated.
I know. Yeah, it's semantics. Yeah.
I will say I've watched that maybe 3, 4, 5 times this week because
I
I'm
love
doing
Big.
the bigger picture show design poster right now of it. But I think that might be the best performance I've watched out of Tom Hanks. Just his range in that movie is just insanity. But
Yeah, he's very good in that movie.
Yeah.
That movie's a very heartfelt,
it's
deep movie.
Beautiful.
I think maybe that would have existed in my list at the outset when I talked about like Labyrinth and What About Bob and stuff. It's like, yes, there's a kid and an adult central to the movie, but I don't think they like affected each other's character arcs specifically.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah, great addition. Yeah.
Let's hear that number one.
Oh, guys, number one. Number one was easy.
The Matrix.
I didn't even have to. I didn't even.
Yes, nailed it.
It was The Matrix. Whoa. Yeah. No, it was actually The Matrix 2.
Perfect.
No, Terminator 2. Terminator 2, you guys, John Connor and Arnold Schwarzenegger, that is the most profound child adult movie I've ever seen. Case closed.
You're gonna put that. You're gonna put that above Last Action Hero.
I am. Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm sick by that.
Okay. Good call. Good
Yeah.
call.
I, for the record, like Last Action Hero a lot. I think it's a super fun movie.
I was disappointed, but I still like it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me in Brian's Corner, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Da-na-na-na-na-na. All right. If Brian's Corner has ended, that means it's time for our final segment.
That's the only reason people like Brian's Corners, because it's like we know what's coming next.
Right. This is
the last shit we got to get through.
Yeah, this is where you throw the time code to the Patreon. They just skip right to this section because really it's the only reason you listen to the show. I know it, you know it, we all know it. It's fine. That segment though, the thing is, it really has evolved over time in terms of what we've called it, how we've approached it, and I think that's what makes it so interesting and just so dynamic.
It's alive.
It is. It's a living, breathing, elastic thing. And I think our listener appreciates that.
Thank you, listener.
So I feel like it was called, what was it called?
Sorry, I'm getting a seizure from Man on Fire right now. Hang on, let me get over it for a second.
Thanks.
There
Tony.
really should be a warning in front of this
facing
movie.
away from the screen, and all I can see is just like
strobing.
And part of it.
If you can guess what
88-inch
scene it is,
screen.
Ben, I'd be really impressed.
all of them.
I think we call. What'd you ask to? What do we call this segment?
Yeah, I'm trying to just draw this out as long as possible.
Crossfire.
Sounds like a slow burn.
Crossfire. You'll get caught up in it.
Or was it cross burn?
Crossed,
Wait, it wasn't ever cross burn, right?
crossed up,
Sideburns?
totally crossed out. That was a cross
the
album.
script.
Hold on, I got something for you.
Slow burn.
Ooh, that was nice.
New sound effect.
New sound effect,
Sound
guys.
effects,
I
guys.
like
Look at us.
that.
Yeah.
And that sets it off, doesn't it? That's where you are, people. You're with slow burn.
Next week, I want to see if I can have perfect pitch on that.
All right, so we're gonna do this, guys. We're gonna slow burn it, and let's just pop this off here. So, the first thing I want to get to on slow burn is, just we've touched on it a little bit, but I want to just hit it right on the nose here. The Tony Scott aesthetic, right? The filters, the shaky cams, the quick cuts, all that stuff. What do we think about it? Can we live with it? Does it add to the movie? We know we've used the word fatiguing. I just give me your reaction to Tony Scott's direction.
Woof.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's bad. I got a literal headache watching this film.
I don't mind these Dutch angles he's got going on.
The angles, the cinematography was great. It was just the fast
It's the
cuts,
editing.
It's just the editing. That's all it is.
So do we? Is it the editor, or is Tony Scott in the editing room?
Tony Scott's got to be in that editing room.
Because, like you said, we're not dogging the DP. I mean, look at these shots are framed well.
They're
these
beautiful.
Everything looks great.
Yeah.
It's those all of a sudden overcranked, hyperfrenetic, washed out, oversaturated contrast flashes that happen to you. And guys, that doesn't happen in Crimson Tide, does it?
Could he just not fit the camera inside that submarine?
Well, maybe. No, and again, I keep bringing Crimson Tide up because it's my favorite Tony Scott film, but also because like it's him and Denzel, and they're in this sub, right? So how do you make a sub more interesting? I mean, there's only 7 rooms you can shoot in for a 2.5-hour movie. You'd think of any movie where he's going to go ham on his crazy editing and visuals, it's going to be that movie, and he doesn't. He dials it back. So my answer to you is Tony Scott, when in doubt, dial it back 50%, and just try to replicate Crimson Tide.
Smart.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it. Unless it's Enemy of the State, in which case,
Ramp
crank
it
that
up.
shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that whole aesthetic that he has, it
different.
goes so well with that movie. Just the whole idea of that movie.
Enemy at the State is so
Underrated.
Can we just talk about when Tom Sizemore pushes John Voight in the face? Have you ever seen someone a face push on screen better than that one?
No, it was very serious. Yeah.
I wish we could do that movie.
I do too. Okay, something else I wanted to bring up. So, okay, the amount, I just think the way this movie is structured is really interesting. The amount of exposition to start the movie is extraordinary. And you don't even get the inciting incident in this movie until like almost an hour in, which I don't think you could, please correct me if I'm wrong, was there a movie that takes longer to get to the inciting incident than this one? And I guess the question is really how, on top of that, how did we feel about that massive amount of exposition that was maybe or maybe not required to, kind of set up the rest of the film?
I mean, there was definitely a lot of stat calling out of this many kidnappers and this many minutes every day in the city, and this is the way it works. And I mean, sure, that's fine. I feel like they told us that 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Could have been once. I don't think the first hour was all exposition, though. I think most of it, the best parts of it, were relationship development.
Yeah. Character development, relationships, how he connects to his buddy that brought him to Mexico in the first place, Christopher Walken. And then,
I would almost say the incite to me. You can look at this movie in 2 completely different ways, with 2 completely different inciting incidents. You can look at it in the way that Nick just looked at it, which I think is the way that they tried to make it, and the way that, having seen the movie retroactively, that's the inciting incident, right? Hour in, he gets shot, she gets kidnapped, right? I don't view it that way. I don't want that to be the inciting incident. I want it to be the night he tries to kill himself and the bullet jams, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the inciting incident for his character arc, which is what this movie's about.
Yeah.
And for his development with his relationship with Pita And that is what this movie's about. He changes her, makes her a better swimmer. She changes him, makes him a better guy, makes him, read the Bible or stop drinking, whatever it is. Like the two of them are making each other better. It's a buddy drama kind of deal. So that's where I want the inciting incident to be.
Well, I guess maybe we're defining exposition a little bit differently, because I think to me, like, I'm talking about all this stuff, just kind of like explaining that relationship, like kind of you're talking about as being part of the exposition. The plot is not really like moving forward.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
We're just kind of developing a relationship.
Sure.
And that is kind of, to me, that's what I kind of mean by a lot of that exposition on top of the stuff that you were already taking as exposition, I guess.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I mean, if this movie's a drama, then the first hour is not exposition. If this movie's an action, if this movie's a kidnapping, like think about Ransom. You guys seen Ransom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Another kidnapping movie, a superior one, I think. One of the best kidnapping movies of all time. In fact,
Taken.
Taken is great as well.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to put Ransom ahead of it, though. It was done first. I think it's a better movie, but yeah, Taken's great. But think about Ransom. When does if the kidnapping's the inciting incident, when does that happen? Like first 10% of the movie, maybe sooner. So Nick, I see what you're saying there, because ultimately that's what this movie is. It's a kidnapping movie. It's not a drama relationship. It's a kidnapping movie. It's like it's a thriller. Is what we're watching, a thriller here.
That kidnapping sets in motion the main sequence of events.
And you're right, that comes really late in the movie.
Really late. And think about like another movie. I was kind of trying to compare this. I was thinking a movie, like what's a movie that does it like at the very, very start? I mean, you gave an example there, but I think I've got one that does it even earlier. Remember Snakes on a Plane?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the inciting incident was literally the first scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Was that guy.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, it was like, that's right.
Getting
You
hung up.
called that out too.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
drinks,
We
drinks some Red Bull.
We just enter the movie in the incident. We're like, whoa.
Right. Yeah. So just interesting. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I thought it was worth pointing out. All right. I forgot how much I hadn't seen this movie in a while. Creasy drinks a lot in this movie. I was like, damn. Like I remember him having a drink or two, but like in the first hour, man, he is just ripping shots in every scene.
And he's just like very transparent about it. He's not. I mean, it's almost like it's a stat. He's like, I'm 6'2", I'm 200, and I'm a drinker.
Yeah,
it's
like how the wife and the husband are just okay with it, and they supply him. She comes in and she's like, "Oh, did you get your bottle?" It's like, ugh.
And it's Jack Daniels.
Oh, I thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little interesting because like the drinking is demonized in this movie, and it's always clearly Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
like
kinda
an
interesting.
anti-sponsor right there.
Huh. Yeah.
It couldn't be Delicious Old Elk.
No.
Never.
We wouldn't be doing this movie if Old Elk was the featured whiskey.
No, absolutely not. No one has ever had a bad experience drinking Old Elk whiskey.
I'm still convinced.
It's not possible.
Still convinced GW on Leave the World Behind used Old Elk in that delicious, delicious drink he made.
I say the probability is high.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Grizz, I don't know if you want to talk more about this, but the watches, man. I noticed the watches too. There were a lot of tight shots on watches in this movie.
Everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
I'll jump into it. There's, I think, 3 or 4 that just stick out. But right before I got here, I stopped at the gas station and watched a couple videos. And I was looking up specifically around the watches, and the main one he actually wears.
Were you?
No, I looked up specifically. I looked up a quick video on alternate endings, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. But that was the only reason I looked up videos before I got over here. And just
You can do that here. We have Wi-Fi.
I know. Yeah. Well, I just got downtime, so you're like, I'm gonna look something up real quick for the movie. But
You just set that up, so I couldn't. We couldn't leave that there.
From a watch perspective, I mean, you noticed it, Nick. Did you notice it, Brian? Obviously,
I actually did. I noticed at one point somebody had 2 watches on one arm.
Yeah, Denzel Washington.
Am I right about that?
He had
Yeah.
a kind of a chonky tactical watch. It seemed
Yeah,
like.
so that's a Casio.
I never
Again,
noticed watches, but yeah, I got to hand it to him. I noticed that one.
classic, big, bulky Casio. It was a what was it? A ProTech PRG 40 is what that is, and you can get those for $100 on eBay. So if you want to be just like Denzel Washington and Creasy in this film, you can have that done for $100. Everybody else, the husband had a nice Rolex on. The daughter, Dakota Fanning, had like a kid's swatch with a bear logo on it. I have no idea what it was. And then the detective, or not the detective, the reporter that was working with the Mexican FBI agent. She had a nice Cartier tank. I mean, that's a very nice watch for a reporter to be wearing. So I'm guessing she was probably connected in some way. I was expecting her to come into the movie a little bit more, but she wasn't.
Well, and she knows how to get what the fuck she wants.
I know.
Oh yeah,
She knows how to get what she
We're
wants.
gonna get to that.
wait.
We're gonna get to that.
That hit me this time. I was like, well, damn.
Yeah, I was trying to guess what the second watch was on his wrist and why he would wear two of them, but one was like it was synced. It was able to sync two electronic devices, so I guess he used that in some way to throw off the bomb. So, I mean, that's a great plot point. So he put the butt bomb up the dude's ass and used his watch to detonate it and have the countdown. So it was great.
Caitlin and I called it the doo-doo boo-boo.
Was anyone else relieved when it wasn't like a small bomb, but it just like completely incinerated everything? I was worried it was just going to be like you'd hear like a and you just see his facial expression. That's way worse than him just being incinerated. I'm like, thank God everything just went up in flame.
There's a great interview with Scott and Denzel Washington that they talk about this film, and Denzel talks about how he had to do that walking away scene from the explosion, and he said that he just had to make sure he looked as calm as possible, and like he'd done that a million times before, and he said he just looked forward and looked at all the stuntmen, and if any of them had panic on their faces, he knew to run like hell, but he just knew that there's just going to be a massive amount of heat on his back from an explosion.
Yeah, those things are hot.
It's great.
And Gris, I think the reason why you might wear two watches, I think it's because if there's like a time difference, right? You would wear two watches maybe, like if you're to be some cool tactical badass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Sort of.
I'd have to look because there's a GMT, a Greenwich Mean Time watch, where you would have
sure. Where you, right. I know you can show. Yeah, but
so I don't know what
it doesn't look as cool.
The
though.
other watch was like a fancier, more like dress watch that he has on, and then the other one's like a tactical watch.
Yeah,
I don't know why he had both of them on.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of weird.
It's just Anyway.
I want to talk about the setting of this movie a little bit. We've already touched on it a tiny bit, but this Mexico City setting I thought was just so immersive, right? And just kind of compelling and interesting. What did you guys think of the setting of this movie?
Beautiful.
Very immersive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well captured, I thought. It just really, you kind of felt like you were there in a way. And I don't know, a lot of it had to do with, camera angles and and what was being shown actually, the architecture and the history. But
I didn't look into this, but I feel like they actually shot it in Mexico City.
They did.
Oh my gosh!
Of
course they did.
Okay,
yeah.
well there you go.
Yeah. Did you see the postscript of the film? It was like, thank you to Mexico City, the most beautiful place in the world, or something.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess that would make sense that they shot it there.
I wanted to just bring this up real quick because this wasn't actually super clear to me when I watched this last night. It seemed like it was maybe clear to you guys, but in that sequence where he's drinking heavily and he tries to kill himself, it was not super clear to me that what happened. That he pulled the trigger and actually tried to kill himself. I saw him put a gun to his head. I saw that.
I rewound it twice because I was very confused as well.
It was a little confusing, wasn't it? Yeah.
But I think through sound design, we're led to believe what happened there.
Yeah, it wasn't like egregious, but I thought it just could have been a little more clear what happened.
I think it was explained later when he talked to Christopher Walken, and he says, "Hey, have you ever had a gun misfire before?" And he just goes into that great detail about it. But that's all I knew about it.
Yeah, I still think it wasn't like super clear. Maybe it didn't need to be that clear, and I guess that's kind of the whole point. He was in this drunken stupor. And
no, I think it was in another movie that would have been fine, but I think this movie is kind of on the nose with things, and I think this movie is so clear and it's so heavy-handed with so much of the other stuff.
Right, there's no subtlety.
Yeah, for that scene to have some sort of a subtlety, it's confusing.
Yeah. Right. That's well said. Okay, this is kind of just an interesting stylistic choice that I thought it added something to the movie. I don't know. I'm curious if you think it was good or bad, but the way the subtitles, like the in-movie subtitles, were handled, that kind of white text on screen to kind of translate some of the Spanish, and actually kind of intermittently, like it would only translate like portions of it. How do we feel about how that was handled?
It was a little confusing, but I think it was done well. Like it was all over the place because some of them were on screen, up, down, bottom. Some were straight across the bottom. But it was fine. I read it just fine.
I thought it was a crutch. I thought it was like voiceover narration. I did not like it. And I started getting really confused because if you notice, they didn't just use it for English, Spanish. They used it. Sorry, they didn't just use it when someone was speaking Spanish to put English subtitles. They used it when people were speaking English. not even broken
Yeah,
English.
yeah.
Denzel Washington is subtitled in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's almost like they're underlining and italicizing and bolding all these things everyone's saying. Instead of just letting their performances carry it through, they're like blasting you over the face in post. Some editors like, hey, let's put these cool, and then they realize like, oh, we can do a cool thing where someone's face goes in front of these things, and these don't have to be like normal subtitles that come up at the bottom of the screen. They can be up over here. They can be over here. I feel like somebody went way too crazy when they realized that they could do that, and it definitely took away from the movie. You look at a movie like John Wick. You look how stylized subtitles are in that movie, and they're different colors, and they're they always talk about John
words
Wick.
are all red,
and it's like, and that movie does it the right way, because I don't feel like it's a gimmick. I feel like it's a gimmick here.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I guess just to play devil's advocate a little bit, the thing I kind of liked about the subtitles is they, in a way, because as you said, they were kind of really inconsistent in a lot of ways. They didn't cover some words. Sometimes they were covering the English. But to me, it kind of added to like just the chaos, just the chaotic feeling of the movie. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And just trying to get bits and pieces. And that's kind of what the whole movie was about, like bits and pieces of information, not getting whole pieces of information, but just getting, parts of information. And I think that kind of illustrated that very literally, I guess. So just playing devil's advocate a little bit, yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm kind of on the fence about it, if it was a good decision or not.
I think stylistically they worked. And I think that, if they were only for Spanish subtitles, I would have been on board.
Yeah. I've told you guys before, I have a hard time. If they're on screen, I'm going to read them. So I think that helped me understand more of the movie. I got to read a lot. Like, I just understood a lot more because I was focusing on those words every time they hit the screen. So
they used them as the movie goes on. They get more and more and more frequent too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of adds to sort of the chaotic nature.
Sure. All right, I want to talk about Lisa, the mom.
Not good.
Ooh.
Not good.
Yikes.
Ooh, gosh.
Unfortunate.
I had some, she was the roughest part of the movie, and I didn't want that to be true. But, I'm going to give a performance parallel that is probably undeserved, but I saw some of her in this performance. And this performance I'm going to reference is a much better both performance and movie. But she kind of reminded me a little bit of Sharon Stone in Casino.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Dang.
She looks like Sharon Stone.
Yeah,
she's
well,
a
she
poor
not
man
only-
Sharon Stone.
Right.
She's a
Poor man
PM.
Sharon
She's a
Stone.
PMSS.
Yeah, right. I like this. Yeah, the PMSS.
Brian said that for everybody that wants
Yeah.
to know.
She
Brian
is, she's
said
a
that.
PMSS,
Brian
man.
said that.
I mean, yeah.
This isn't our first
it was
PM
not
something
Nick-
something.
Only
Ben
our
or
most
Gris.
faithful listeners will understand that that reference.
The deep
but
cut, yeah.
Yes.
PMMR, baby. PMMR for life.
Anyway, she was, but she had that kind of like, sort of like that frantic kind of lunatic thing, when she's going around there like slapping everybody, she just had that sort of just crazy energy.
She slaps a lot of men in the face in this
She
movie.
does. She slaps a lot of people.
I just think of the weird, awkward sexual tension she had with one, her husband, and two, Denzel Washington throughout the entire film. Like,
Yeah,
I could
there
not
was a
tell
little
if
bit
she was
there,
going to massively make out or have a sex scene with her husband or Denzel at any moment.
Yeah, I don't think she knew either. But
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
She was ready to go
tell
one
her.
way or the other.
yeah. Anyways, so guys, any other? No, I mean, obviously, it was a rough performance and probably the worst performance in the movie.
Well, my favorite scene she was in was when they were in the shrine room and they get done praying to the saint of the Virgin Saint of Guadalupe. And then she gets undressed right there and they have sex right in front of the Virgin.
Yeah,
That's all I needed her to be in it for.
I guess the best way I can say it is I feel like 20 to 25% of her performance was really good and the rest of it was really rough. Like, there was not a lot of middle ground. I liked some of the things she did that were kind of interesting, but I'd say the majority of it was kind of cringy.
To be serious though, she wasn't terrible. Like, it's not
wasn't
like
terrible.
It's not like she'd come on screen and I'd go, "Oh, woof," you know. It's like she'd come on screen and I would just lose some immersion. That's what would happen. And she's such a great example of the difference between just somebody who can act, somebody who is an actor, and somebody who's a really good actor or a great actor. She, to me, if she was in some local play or theater thing, I mean, she'd be great. You know what I mean? And she's got nothing about her performance was wrong. She just didn't have it. And it makes you appreciate that most of the people you see on big budget movies have it. And you start thinking about casting directors and you start thinking about how important that is for movies. And she's just an unfortunate example of not having it.
How much of it do you think is being opposite of Denzel? You know what I mean?
So much.
Like because
part of it,
Denzel's one of the best actors of all time.
He acts the fuck out of this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a star in this show, and she's kind of like, a wet blanket.
I'm not an actor, so I can only speculate. I think my pushback on that is like I said, I just took a week watching Killers of the Flower Moon, and freaking Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, right? Two of the absolute
on screen together
biggest stars of all time. There are have you any of you guys seen it? Okay.
Yeah.
There are a lot of actors in that movie. There's a huge cast. Yeah. And they're all acting opposite Leo and not maybe not opposite, but with him on screen. And other than Lily Gladstone, who I think does not deserve the nomination for Best Actress. Ooh, we'll get to that in 2 weeks, people. Other than her, the rest of the acting was super good. So I don't know if how that speaks to the fact that you've got a high. I mean, there's a lot of movies where you have a high profile actor and everyone else is great too. So I think that she could have been great. I think she just was. They didn't have chemistry. I don't know.
Yeah. So I had a couple things we touched on a little bit earlier, but I'll just rattle them off quickly because I think they're worth mentioning. So Brian, how sweet was that scene when when Dakota Fanning catches Creasy smiling? That's just so endearing.
It was perfect scene.
And the music swell. Oh my gosh,
Perfect
it almost
scene.
made me laugh out loud. It was just too perfect. It was great.
Yeah, it was so good.
And then there's no tough, only trained or untrained. What a good line. And then another little scene that was just so endearing between those two was when Pita or Dakota Fanning was so happy when she wins the swim meet, that kind of that all coming together, that little kind of sub story. I mean, what a great little culmination of their efforts. I just once again going back to how good that character kind of relationship building was. The necklace, another thing. There was just a nice little thing. It wasn't it just was handled well. It wasn't too much. So just the way they built that bond, just really effective. Okay, new slow burn topic. Denzel, leash your fucking dog, dude.
Wait, what?
He plays catch with the dog in the park or outside the piano lessons before they get shot.
Yeah, seemed like a nice dog, a friendly dog, but you don't just let your dog run free in public,
Mexico.
especially
It's
in the middle
Mexico,
of
man.
Mexico City.
It's Mexico.
Especially
What are you gonna
there's
do?
a little girl about to get kidnapped. He's running and around. He's harassing another dog. This poor lady.
That dog's gone for good after that gunfire happens, right?
I know that
It's-
dog is
it's
out of
no
here.
longer-
Yeah,
it's
he
gone.
is gone. Yeah, I just thought as this Denzel of all the I know he's not a very good guy in this movie, so maybe that's adding to that kind of character building there. But I just really would just leash your dog, man. Don't leave your dog off the leash, especially with some lunatic like that dog Sam. I think his name was Sam.
I never noticed a dog.
He's
in
an
this movie.
underpaid bodyguard.
There's a
babysitter.
dog in
What
this
are you
movie?
gonna do?
And Lupita gets the dog as a present.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Denzel is kind
I
of
think
the,
I just-
He has to take
It's a
care of
lab,
handler.
yellow lab.
I must have looked away.
yeah. It was like a yellow lab or
I
something.
think my eyes glazed over.
Anyways, maybe that's just a little something coming. I don't like when people don't leash their dogs. Leash your
Also,
dog.
Same.
what was the point of getting a dog? Like they made a big deal of her getting a dog, and like it's
It didn't add a lot.
They just needed
Right,
Denzel
yeah.
to do something
And-
on that bench outside while he's waiting for the action to
I
happen.
guess,
Maybe.
but like he literally could have cut that scene like in half.
Yeah. Or completely.
There were so many things.
So probably the most overused song in movie history.
Claire de Lune. I've got that written down right here. Claire de Lune is in every freaking
this
movie.
and it hurts
And
me
it's-
too because
it's
I
still
love
so
Claire de
good.
Lune.
It's still so
It's
good.
just so good, but it's just total cliche at this point, even at this time.
And it's not used just once. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
it's
no,
used.
over and
it's
over.
over and over.
There's at least 6 times in
And
this
it's
Any
only
movie.
the
dramatic
first
moment.
part. They,
Yeah.
they don't play any. It's only like the first
Yeah.
third of the piece, which is kind of annoying. So, anyways, that just was kind of.
You know who wrote some of the other songs in this movie?
Ooh, you ready for this?
Trent Reznor.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't know.
yeah.
Yeah, Trent Reznor. Yeah, he's written that guy is so prolific.
I feel like
It's
this was
insane.
his kickoff into getting into the film, like
Was it?
mixing. It's got to be 2004. That's early for
It's
him.
early, yeah.
Guys, in my closing thoughts, in my good section, music is prominently mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
The music
Good.
in this
Good, good,
movie
good, good.
is good.
Yeah. Trent Reznor.
All right. Okay, here's I wonder if this was intentional or not. Do you know when after Creasy kills the two cops, right? After the kidnapping scene, and he's in the hospital, right? Did you guys get I got like a total Godfather vibe, you know? Like you've got this wounded kind of, guy, this important guy that's been shot, and you got to sneak him out of the hospital because the corrupt people are coming after him.
That was cool.
Sneak the gurney out.
I liked it.
I don't know. It just seemed like a very Godfather moment to me. I don't know if you guys thought of that film when that happened or not, but
I do now.
I've only seen Godfather 1, so I can vibe with that.
Okay, how about here's something that I thought added to the movie. The fact that for so much of sort of Creasy's rampage, he thought Pita was dead, right? He was not coming to rescue this girl. He was just coming as just this fucking hurricane to just destroy everything in his path that had anything to do with that situation. And I actually thought that was like... Poetic. I thought that added something to the movie instead of a movie like another very good kidnapping movie like Taken, right? He's coming back for a girl that he is, or his daughter that he thinks is alive. Maybe she's dead, but he's generally certain he's alive. In this movie, he's pretty sure for a lot of that kind of that sequence that she's dead.
Yeah,
and he just doesn't give a fuck. He's just gonna just destroy everything. And I just think I think that adds something.
I did like that a lot. I mean, he's in the hospital bed and he wakes up and Christopher Walken says, I think they make a note that he's been asleep for 48 hours. And so I think he already knows that's the stat. Like that person is gone. That kid is dead for sure. And so I think he writes it off and then he's in full revenge mode at that point.
Yeah, do you guys remember how unhinged he becomes the second half of the movie?
Holy shit.
So I think there's two kinds of revenge movies. There's the kind where somebody's after a specific person to rescue, right, or a goal. Like we talk about Ransom, right? Mel Gibson, he goes off the chain on that movie because his son is alive. He knows his son's alive. He'll do whatever it takes, but he doesn't become completely unhinged because he knows there's still somebody's life at stake. You look at Taken, another example. That this is a revenge movie. Then you look at the other kind of revenge movie, which I think are a little bit more compelling to me.
Yeah,
and that's a movie like Braveheart, where everything's taken from him, and now he becomes this force.
Yeah,
and you don't know. He doesn't even know what he's going to do. Maybe, or you look at a John Wick. You take everything's gone, and now you've taken the one thing he's got left, his dog, and now he's a force to be reckoned with, right?
And they just want to watch it burn.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
yeah.
right? And they're two different types of movies, right? Man on Fire is both. Man on Fire is the one thing that has turned his life around, taken away from him. He becomes a force, but then he finds out that she's still alive, and he changes, and he thinks rationally, and he does the one thing that's going to save her life. And by God, I'm at a 45 because I did not catch that the first time. The first time I watched this movie, I did not catch that, and I've not seen that in a movie that I can remember. And I think, Nick, thanks to our slow burn session, we've discovered that really, really interesting point in that part of this movie.
We're going to try and get you to a 50 before we close this out. We're working on it.
Godspeed.
I'm pushing closer to 60, so I'm at 53. I'm getting there.
Speaking of those kind of vengeance movies, like, do you guys have a favorite? Just like movie where somebody, it's like, we talk about cathartic. That's kind of cathartic when in kind of maybe a negative context, but like when somebody like has righteous fury and they just come and just destroy what needs destroyed, right? You got an example, Gris?
Yes, I have the perfect example. The Patriot.
Okay, yeah, another Gibson.
Holy smokes. I love Gibson so much in that movie, and it's just insanity. That guy just goes, just berserk on these people civil, like he just goes nuts. It's amazing. I love it. And he has his kids helping out, and then he goes and they go down one by one, and he's just he's plowing guys left and right. I love it.
Yeah, great example. Other examples? I one just popped in my mind.
One I saw recently that I thought was pretty good, actually, that had a really interesting sort of gimmick. It worked sometimes and not other times, but was Silent Night, the new John Woo movie.
I haven't seen that yet.
Total pure revenge movie. And yeah, really interesting. I mean, the whole kind of gimmick of it is that there's like no dialogue. It's I mean, there's a little bit of off-screen dialogue, but more or less there's really no dialogue. And yeah, it works sometimes and doesn't work other times. But I just thought it was a really cool revenge movie. It's worth watching, I think, at least.
Yeah,
I got
go ahead.
two. Nobody.
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
like
sure,
Nobody.
yeah.
Nobody's very good.
Is that with Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah, Bob
Yeah,
Odenkirk, yeah.
that's a good one.
It's a great movie.
I forgot about that. I saw it in theaters.
He both gets his ass kicked
Yeah.
and kicks so much ass.
Yeah, the train scene. Yeah, it's or the bus.
bus
scene,
scene, yeah.
bus scene.
I'll say one while you think, Ben. Another one. This is the last example I'll give is You Were Never Really Here. So that's a Lynn Ramsey movie. She's pretty dark stuff. But there's a Joaquin Phoenix role in You Were Never Really Here, and basically what the whole thing is, he's sort of this vigilante that goes and rescues sex trafficked girls. And if there's anything worth like kind of saving and rescuing, it's something like that. And he walks into this building, and you feel you are hyped like for what this man is about to do. So
I remember it was Boondock Saints.
okay, cool.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I need to
classic.
rewatch. Maybe this is 8mm. You guys remember Nick Cage?
Oh, yeah.
Is
Oh,
that?
yeah. That's a dark movie.
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah.
dark. But yeah, that was good.
All right, I want to hit a couple quotes here that we haven't talked about yet. So, how about the scene? What did you guys think of the scene with Lisa and Creasy that really kind of sets off that whole revenge thing? Where she's like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna kill them all. Anybody involved, anybody who profited from it, anybody who looks at me, I'm going to kill them." And she says, "You kill them all." And then that funky guitar comes in. That bow, now, bow, bow. It's like,
New sound effect coming in hot.
yeah, I mean, it still hit. That still hit for me.
I wish Metallica Kill 'Em All would have started playing.
That would have been good. That would have been good. Another quote I really enjoyed, actually, I think happening on screen almost right now. There's the club scene, right? And and Denzel kind of kicks his way into this club and starts. He's got some people tied up, and he starts talking to this guy who was clearly involved with the kidnap. And he's like, "Where are you from, buddy?" He's like, I'm from New Jersey." He's like, "You from New Jersey?" He's like, "I'm from New Jersey." He's like, "What part?" And I was like, "Oh, that's just great." I love that. I love how Denzel does that. I mean, that's something he does so well, is that tone shift. It's like he's about to murder this guy.
Yeah.
And then he just finds some quick common ground with him, and he's like, "Oh, that's fun." He's like, and then now we're gonna get back
And he's
to
fun
murdering
and
you.
quirky and everything. And then I like how his outfits change. He's got the bandana on his head. And he's got the long sleeve T-shirt over a dark T-shirt.
Hey, real quick, Nick, before we moved on, what was the last thing you said? I had a comment. It was so good. It was a doozy. What was the last slow burn? Shit. What are we talking about?
You're from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey.
Yes. Okay. The masterclass where he puts on sort of the tone shift training day. He just messes with you. in training day.
Yeah.
That
That's
was
a
great.
perfect.
Remember,
example.
they're sitting in the
Yeah.
diner at the beginning with Ethan
Totally.
Hawke, and he's just
Totally.
fucking with him, and you don't know
Yeah.
what he's about to say.
Yep.
Yeah, love it.
Yep. All right, a couple more quotes here that I thought were strong. I just thought there was good dialogue in this movie. I did. Forgiveness is between them and God. It's my job to arrange the meeting.
Arrange the meeting. Yeah.
That's just a pretty boss line.
I wasn't
care who
sure
you
what
are.
I felt about that one, but I think I like it.
It was okay. So it's everything about this movie is very heavy-handed. So that's a very heavy-handed line, and I thought it fit the tone nicely. In a different movie, I could have been cringy.
Yeah, I think maybe I was just put off by the whole idea of God and forgiveness and all that stuff. I don't know. The religious undertones in the movie were a little bit. So
They were there.
maybe it's not fair. Maybe it was an unfair discounting of that line.
The only one I liked was the father and him I talked about earlier, was just how the father had talked about how he just had it his whole life. And then Denzel comes in and he just repeated that line from the nun. And she just knew that was a better connection for that daughter or that child to learn from.
This is probably my favorite line in the movie. I wish you had more time.
Yes. The line delivery is great.
That is such a good line.
That's pretty good.
I had that one down. But right before that, I'm a professional. I keep hearing that over and over again. That was great too.
Yeah. Another great line in this movie. I will snatch the life right out of you.
Right out of you. Yeah.
That's just like, damn.
Then he's talking to somebody. He's like, "Say one more word, and I'll snatch the life right out of you." He's talking to the dad at that point, right? Marc Anthony. Doesn't he say that to him?
Was it him or was it the voice's brother?
No, I think that's
Was it Marc Anthony?
That's
Yeah,
the
I should've
showdown
wrote
where he
down the
figures it out.
context
He
here.
figures out this twist, and he goes. He confronts.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right about
confronts
that.
him, and
Yeah.
He's trying to talk to Lisa.
Yeah, right.
And
right,
he
right.
says something. He says, "Say one more word, I'll snatch the life right out of you."
Yep.
What about you tell me to tell you to tell her what she calls her bear when he's on the phone?
Yeah.
You page me, and I'll tell you.
Guys, why couldn't he just ask to hear her voice like every other
just-
rant,
yeah,
like
make it
every
easier,
other
buddy.
kidnapping
There were
movie?
so many things.
Sorry, we're in dialogue. I keep going on dialogue. Sorry.
The other just savage line of dialogue in this movie is that just always sticks with me is I'm going to take your family apart piece by piece. That is just like, fuck, this guy is serious.
He's unhinged.
Yeah. So I don't know. A lot of great quotes in this movie. What did you guys think about the Marc Anthony kind of twist of him being responsible for the kidnapping?
I loved it.
Was that a
Loved it.
big
Was it a twist?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big twist.
It messed me up. First, I thought the lawyer was the crooked guy, and then I realized it was Marc Anthony who told the lawyer to do that, and I was like, okay, that's classic.
Maybe I just read that.
I think that's on
I've
brand
watched-
for the whole Mexico City kind
Yeah,
of kidnapping
totally.
scene.
Yeah, I just felt like they were in cahoots the whole time, and the dad was part of it just because he was letting a lot of shit happen.
Well, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah. I've watched
and
too many detective.
Mickey Rourke, the lawyer. What a great name, Jordan Calthus. That just sounds like
did
some
have that written
sleaze
down.
bag lawyer, doesn't it?
Sounds like somebody on The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to throw this one out, guys. Just a couple more slow burns here. What other actor could have done this role that Denzel Washington did in this movie, and could have done it justice? I'm not saying who could have done it better. I'm not asking that, but who could have stepped into this role and handled it?
John Malkovich.
No.
I have no clue.
I mean, only because I mentioned him already, but I think Kurt Russell could have done it.
Oh, that would have been, yeah. That's a good call.
How about Tom Hardy?
Oh, Tom Hardy, for sure.
He could have
Oh, for
crushed
sure.
this role.
Great choice.
Oh, for sure, Tom Hardy. Yeah. And I would have been thankful for the subtitles in that movie. You know what I mean?
He would have come up with his own
no
voice
doubt.
for that for sure.
All right, guys. I only got a couple more. I think we got to talk about the ending a little bit. I touched on already that I noticed reading some of the audience reviews that a lot of people did not like the ending, and specifically called out the ending as being unsatisfactory. I thought it was kind of mediocre. We talked about the alternate ending that Gris had. My idea was just, take out all the guys, with the suicide vest, when he gets in the car. I guess then you don't get the voice. Maybe it's not quite quite as good as the possible alternate ending. But yeah, just gauging the ending with you guys. Good, bad, medium.
Well, okay, so to answer that question, I'd say medium. I don't think it was bad. I think it was almost good. I think it's a very memorable setting. I remember that bridge from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I love where and how they shot it with this sort of large distance between the two parties there. But I also want to say that I think what could have made that ending better is we talked about one type of alternate ending, but what if Chris Walken had a character arc? He came out of retirement and fucking lit
just
them
sprayed
up.
down
I was
all the-
hoping.
oh, man,
I really
they could
was
have done
expecting that.
so
Wouldn't that have been
much.
awesome?
That would have been just
I was
spectacular.
expecting
Bring the two of them back
Walken to
together.
come in as a sniper, or I was expecting Denzel to just go berserk in that car and kill them all, and then just get out and then collapse. Like I would have rather have had that where he got one last kick before he died, but no, he just falls asleep in the car as they drive off to the voice.
Yeah, they didn't ruin the movie with the ending,
I
but
don't think
they
it
could
ruined
have
it,
done a lot more.
Yeah,
I think we. All
I mean, we
agree
spit
there.
out at least 3 different options
Yeah.
here. 4, yeah.
Yeah,
That were all better.
Yeah, way better, yeah.
Truth. The music, guys. Let's talk about the music for
Very
2
good.
seconds in this movie. Yeah, very once again sort of immersive,
Eclectic.
Very
Very
kind
eclectic.
Yeah, kind of all over the place in a good way. Yeah. Any other thoughts about the music,
Yeah,
guys?
I had. I mentioned eclectic because there's the whole techno rave scene with good music. It's not just stock
Thanks,
crappy
Trent
music.
Reznor.
It's good music. I didn't even know that when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wrote my notes. So that that would have probably
And then
made
the
me.
mix in with the orchestra was just, I mean,
Yep.
that was emotional scenes. I think that was mostly at the beginning. I think it was in the very end scene. They brought the orchestra back.
It danced between the two, so
Yeah.
you'd be hearing some sort of, and I say techno rave. That was one specific part of the movie. The rest of the movie went between classic film score orchestral and sort of your sort of modern warfare synth beat style, like a Black Hawk Down type of sort of like the later kind of mid-aughts Hans Zimmer type scores.
Yep.
It really bounced between them, and it had them both prominently featured, which was really cool. And then you've got Pavarotti, you know, and Claire de Lune. You've got classical stuff. You've got modern choral like that. There's this song that sounded like it was straight out of The Gladiator. It was like this female voice.
There was that gladiator. Like
it was a common motif.
Yep.
So yeah, very eclectic music. Good job. Good job. It was almost as frenetic as the camera, as the editing.
Yeah, it matched the pace of the movie.
But it was good. It brings the movie up for me.
Yep.
Yeah, agree. All right, and then just one more little thing. This just kind of irritated me at the end. Why did they need to show like the death date of Creasy at the end? It was like it showed like the day, on screen, like the day he died. It's like we got that he died. Like I got that. I don't need it.
I actually looked up. Was this a true story? Was it based on a true story? Because I know it was based on a book or it was written from a book or whatever. But I was really confused by. Was that a real person? Was this a true story?
The end credits make you think it's a true story.
Yeah. It was just kind of a strange choice to like. It's like, was it not clear that he
2004?
died?
You probably wouldn't Google that.
Was that an editing thing? It's like the audience might not know these days.
Yeah,
no, that's literally what I thought.
Exactly.
It's like because it wasn't like super. Because everything like we were talking about in this movie is like pretty on the nose, pretty heavy handed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like his death wasn't like I mean, you don't see him literally.
It was like the next
get
day.
Buried.
Yeah. It was like,
you know what I mean?
This all took place on Tuesday, and it was like Wednesday he died.
Right.
That's kind of
so it's like maybe they just needed to just hit that nail all the way in.
Maybe
you know?
It
was just like he's dead. Okay.
P.P.P.P.P.S. He did try to kill himself with that bullet, by the way, in that scene we didn't show you. Just so you know.
Yes, right. Yeah. The only things if that weren't clear in this movie. I think everything else was pretty fucking clear.
P.P.P.P.P.S. Write to this address. If anything's unclear, we will send you an email explaining the movie to you.
You know what? That's ultimately something I really kind of appreciated about this movie at the end of the day, and that made my score as high as it was this movie to me was just, and I know this, I'm just a simpleton, and that's fine, but it was just a very clear movie. I understood everything that happened. I understood why people did what they did. I understood why the plot went from A to B to C to D, and it made some nice twists along the way. It wasn't like super predictable, but I understood every step of the way what was going on.
Totally
I was never
agree.
kind of in the dark, and I unlike a movie like Leave the World Behind, where I felt like everything was so ambiguous all the time. Sometimes I just kind of want my hand held a little bit to just.
No, I do. As someone who loved Leave the World Behind, I also agree with you. I did not need this movie to be any more complex or deep as it was. Matter of fact, if it was, I would have been even more confused. I really liked the singular sort of ease of which you can sort of watch this. Well, not ease. It's annoying and fatiguing. But like I said, the story is easy to digest.
Yeah.
Nick wins this round. I'll go from a 53 to a 63.
Ooh.
Wait.
Damn.
He wins this round.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is this a battle?
Oh, absolally.
All right, I'm going down to a 35.
No,
Are we dragging you down with me?
That's not how it works.
All right. I haven't even talked about my bad yet. No, I'm just kidding.
So, all right, guys, I'm pretty well done here. But one other thing I just think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on was, and I know I'm a bit of an older man now. The way I view this movie, now as someone who's 40, as opposed to someone 20 years ago who would have viewed this movie as a little bit different. And I think it's important to point out this is a savage movie. This is a really savage movie.
Yeah.
And I think that depending on what your mindset is and kind of who you are and what you can tolerate.
There's the two watches. There's the
there
two
it is.
watches.
Yes.
He's got two watches on.
Yes.
Sorry.
No.
Nick, go.
I've looked at this scene too many times, guys. It's great.
But it can. I mean, this scene is a great example. This can be a hard movie to watch just because of how. I mean, there's just people just being tortured in this movie. Now you may think they deserve the torture, and it may seem like they do. But regardless, I mean, you're seeing a human torture another human in a very severe way,
and it shows it for a long time.
And it does not pull any punches.
And there's not just one scene. Like we're seeing a scene now with the guy on the car, but then there was a scene earlier, a very long drawn out scene with the guy in the car with his hands duct taped to the steering wheel, and Denzel's cutting his fingers off one by one.
That's probably the most savage one at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and that's the first one too. And I don't think that's any mistake. I think they
early.
were they were going to set you up like we're not going to fuck around with this movie. And I don't know. I mean, I'm a little conflicted on how I feel about that at the end of the day. Honestly, I think it certainly kind of sets the movie apart in an interesting way, just in how savage it is. But it's also just like, I mean, some people might just really struggle to, see this as entertainment.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more what you called savage or grim movies than this that were way less fatiguing and way less annoying and way more compelling. It's not just the fact that there's long, drawn-out scenes that are hard to watch. I mean, think of a movie like Saltburn, There's some scenes that are so hard to watch in that movie, but but good Lord, is that so much of a better movie than this, and it's very compelling. And I don't ever want to watch the scenes in that movie again, but it's still a better movie. So it's not just the grimness of this movie, but I agree with you, Nick. That was one of the two main reasons why I took so many points away from this movie, was because they just went. You start with this sweet scenes with him and Pita that we talked about, and you're setting yourself up to have these feels, and all of a sudden there's just people getting debauched and destroyed and tortured for the last hour plus of this movie. And I wrote in my notes here, would this movie have been better as an 8-part miniseries? I think it probably would have.
Yeah,
and I probably would have stopped watching it.
Yeah, great.
I probably would have watched the first 3 episodes, and then when it completely changed, I would have gone, well, I'm not going to watch that show anymore. But I don't do that with movies. I always finish a movie, unfortunately. So
yeah, who would be the streaming option for that? Who would you?
It'd
pick?
be Netflix.
Netflix.
This is a Netflix movie.
Oh,
is what this is.
I'd like to see an HBO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
A little
thinking.
bit higher. A little
It
bit
feels
higher.
like
quality.
Amazon to me. Feels like Amazon.
Amazon.
Guys,
Okay.
no,
yeah.
Because they
no.
kind of have that, you know.
Now, when we
the Jack Ryan
when we
series,
talk
I can
about
see that, yeah.
maybe
What was the series we watched? I can't remember the name of it. It was with oh my god, I can't remember anything about it. It was the military, Afghanistan.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. What was that? What was that called? Anyways,
Gris, you'll fit.
yeah,
think of
it was good. I obviously can't remember what it was called, but it was good. It was good.
Yeah, this feels
The
more like
Terminal List.
Terminal List.
Terminal List.
Okay,
That's
I thought
right.
that was great. I thought it was
Yeah,
interesting.
I enjoyed it.
This feels more like kind of more akin to like a Narcos, you know, and I don't know where
okay.
that first aired, but it's on Netflix
That
now.
was like the first show they ever had.
And to me, this show, Nick, the reason I said Netflix was because Netflix to me just gives you easy stuff.
Sure, yeah,
And
yeah,
this
yeah.
movie,
Very
this is an
digestible.
easy, digestible movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's why I would say Netflix. But I think it's better as an 8-part miniseries. I've got a couple rapid fires whenever you're done.
No.
I
Rattle 'em off.
speaking of the fingers, you guys, you know, there's torture scenes in movies all the time, and there's somebody that's threatening to do one thing or another, and they end up like killing the guy on accident or pummeling them and knocking them out. You know, guys, why don't you just? I mean, I know this is grim, but don't you think cutting fingers off is the most effective torture device that there possibly is? Because you cut one finger off, and the guy is not going to die. And he's still got 9 fingers left, and he can probably live the rest of his life. But he can see where this is going. It's almost like a countdown. It's a natural countdown from 10 to 1.
Ooh.
And like, why don't you see more times in movies where they're just like, all right, well, I'm going to take one of your fingers, and I'm going to take another finger. I don't know, guys. I see you squinting, and I know that's a morbid topic.
Well, no,
but
because I was only squinting because I was thinking teeth.
there's another great example. Like, but still,
I feel like teeth is worse.
What
But you
about
can
Billy
get,
Bob
but you can get
Thornton getting his-
implants.
bad.
What about Billy Bob Thornton getting his fingernails
they're all
ripped
bad.
off in Gray Man?
You, but still like the reason I'm going with fingers is because you cannot get a new finger, right? Your fingernail's going to regrow. You can get implants.
I guess that's true.
You
You could get new
lose a
teeth.
finger. I mean, our hands are how we do
But yeah,
everything.
You can. These days, doesn't Elon Musk like have a device that we can all wear to make our
let's
hands work?
go 5 years ago and live in that time to answer this question. I think taking the finger off is the most effective
No, you
form
might be
of
right.
torture.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we covered that.
Thank you.
Concur?
Hey, remember I teased Deep Blue Sea?
Mm-hmm.
What's the bird's name in this movie?
Bird,
Bird.
capital B.
What's the bird's name in Deep Blue Sea?
Bird.
Bird.
Maybe this is Bird Jr.
Same bird.
Also,
Connection.
Same bird.
what was the plot point for Bird? Like,
There was a metaphor there.
Something about letting something free.
The bird comes back.
Bird comes
Yeah.
back, but
comes
like,
back.
why?
Ben, it was a deep metaphor that just doesn't need to be explained.
And one more I'll say here, guys. Well, 2 more. First of all, the real quick one. The last half of this movie, Creasy is bleeding. He gets in the swimming pool for like his little therapy.
Yeah,
and
twice.
there's like clouds of blood
I think-
exiting his body.
I think it's a thing. Like I love that visual, and I think there's a meaning behind it where he has to get back in the pool because if you wet a wound like that, it's just going to continuously reopen, and he's like brutalizing his body.
Yeah.
and he knows it's an end, and he knows that's going to continue, and so he just keeps going.
His
throughout the
wounds
movie.
are always even when he's not in the water, and he like he's like, oh, okay, I'm done in this hospital
Yeah.
bed, and I'm going to get up and go over here, and it shows his wounds, and they're all
Yep.
just bleeding. And I'm just like, stop bleeding.
Did you guys notice the Easter egg where he has a shirt on early in the film? It's a black and white kind of patterned shirt, and it's got 2 red patterns on it. They are the exact spots that he gets shot pre first act.
Interesting.
It was
I
a
did
nice
not
little
notice
set
that.
dressing.
Yeah.
Last one I'll say, you guys remember the Ravers? Ravers in the rave, and he comes out and shoots that shotgun like not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah, they like,
and it's like a hip hip hooray.
Yeah, it's Mexico, man.
And they're all just cheering, right?
Yeah.
And finally, they kind of start to clear out of the building.
And then they all cheer.
And as the last guy clears the building and turns around and sees the building they were just in blow up, instead of everyone going, "Oh my God," or
"What the
"Holy
fuck?"
shit," they're all like, "Yeah!" Like, what the fuck are they on?
That's
and
just
I
how
want
Mexico
some.
is, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Those are my rapid fires.
You mean slow burns?
Yeah, what'd I say?
Crossfire.
Cross burns. Slow burn.
Ooh.
Nice. I love that song.
Yeah, and I think that does it, guys. I think we slow burned it. I think we did a great job tonight. I give everyone a gold star.
Wow.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no
Plus
problem.
A for everyone.
Wait, do you actually have stickers or no?
Yeah, I'll
You
bring
don't.
those next week.
Okay.
Chris would ask for stickers.
Says the man that gave us watches.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, let's do some closing thoughts here, guys, on this movie. And you know what? I've been going first all night, so I'll just wing it here. I enjoy this movie a lot. You know, Brian, you hit it earlier. You know, the rose-colored glasses. I liked this movie a lot 20 years ago, and I think some of that still rings true. As I also said earlier, to you, Ben, I see why people would really not like this movie. A lot of reasons why. And in fact, I think if I had never seen this movie before and last night was my first viewing, I'll bet you my score comes in a lot lower, significantly lower. But that's not reality. So, I still like this movie. I think this movie, as I said earlier, is extremely cathartic and in a highly emotional experience. And I think that is something that a lot of people look for when they go to the movies. And this movie really pays that off. So I would say a movie I really enjoy, but definitely not for everybody.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of enjoyable parts of this film. I think overall it missed a lot and it was discombobulated and visually just all over the map. But there's just so many iconic scenes in this and a lot of it was enjoyable. So it's hard to not have fun with it. So
yeah, I got to be honest. I was the most conflicted with this movie so far of any of the ones we've done. I kept second guessing myself and thinking, like, am I like a pretentious asshole for rating this low? Like what's I don't hate the movie, but like, why do I feel like it needs to be a low rating? And I just was all over the place. And I think that what that speaks to is a movie that is compelling, but just has a lot of flaws. And I think that what's most important about a movie to me is not the craft. It's not the performances even. It's the story. And I always come back to the story. And man, the first half of this movie would have just given a 90 out of 100 for me. I mean, it was such a good story. I was so on board. And I think it was like the bigger they are, the harder they fall kind of situation. I was so ready to go. And then like the last hour of the movie, where's Dakota Fanning? She's gone. Yeah. We've been sitting here watching the movie. I don't even remember what she looks like. It's been so long since she's been in this movie. And I remember this movie being her and Denzel. And it's not. It's Denzel. And she's a little bit in the beginning. And she was so good. And so I think it's like it's a case of what the movie could have been. And it fell so far short of that for me and just turned into another well-crafted thriller. So, I did go up to a 45 from a 40, and I stand by that because I love that element of this sort of 2-in-1 revenge type of movie we talked about. I think that's a really cool aspect to the movie that like I kind of dawned on me live here as we recorded this. So yeah, still just, man, I've got so many notes for the movie, but oh well, that's what it is.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to anyone who, as usual, made it this far into the episode. I mean, wow, what a saint. What a special...
Gold star for you.
Amazing. Yeah, gold
we'll
star
ship you a sticker.
for you, sir or madam. Yeah, we just really appreciate you listening, and we have fun doing this, so thanks for patronizing us. We're going to do another episode. We always threaten to do other episodes, and we're gonna do another one, and
we don't make empty threats.
We don't make empty threats, and we're going to do this. And you know what's coming up here, guys? There's a little award show.
Every year.
I believe it's called the Oscar. And
Oscar the Grouch.
And it's they give out these statues, and it's been
Oscar
going on for a
Wilde?
little while. And anyways, we actually stumbled on to something here, and there's a Best Picture nominee that fits our criteria.
Oh, yes.
Out of
Wow.
10
so
Perfect.
we are hyped.
Out of 10 films,
Out of
one
10
hits it.
films, at least I
So
looked
topical.
up at least 6. So I think
Nice.
there could
Really
be,
great detective
There
work,
could be
Nick.
more, but this was the first one I hit that definitely fit our criteria, and that movie is Maestro. With one Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan. So we love that there's an Oscar-nominated movie that fits our criteria for the show. So we are gonna talk about it, and I'm excited.
Oh, I can't wait to talk Oscars. I can't wait.
We love you, Old Elk. Thank you so much for supplying the sauce that fuels the podcast. You can find us on the social medias. The one I think is hot right now is Instagram.
That's the only one I'm really posting to, so you're welcome.
I've heard my grandkids talk about
right.
Instagram.
Yep.
The one that's hot right now.
I'm the only one with social media here in this room.
MySpace is out,
Yeah.
Snapchat.
It's coming back though. I've heard.
Snapchat, there were some Super Bowl commercials. I'm really confused
Yeah.
right now, but
So anyway, Grizz, why don't you
Instagram.
tell the fine people where they can find us?
You can find us at Instagram at Critical Mess Crew.
At Critical Mess Crew.
Give us a follow, comment.
Please.
Do
If
all
you
the
say
things.
something to it, we'll say it. We'll say it as long as it
Absolutely.
doesn't violate the First Amendment. We'll probably say it.
yeah, you guys comment on Instagram, leave a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Just
It helps immensely.
Just do it. In the words of Nike, just do it.
I'm looking at you, Kevin Spawn.
Just calling out. Well, now we know who our listener is. Thanks a lot.
We have one listener.
All right. Well, to everyone out there, thank you again. We love you. We're going to do another episode. We're going to talk about Maestro. And peace.
Later.
See ya.